Hello, my name's Artemis, and do you ever feel like a disappointment? I mean, I guess it's easy when you look like this, but I don't. And I will tell you for why. It's because expectations are placed on us from people who we really shouldn't be trying to, make happy. And there are lots of ways that being a disappointment can actually be a superpower, can actually benefit you the greatest. And I think it's time we dismantle some of these disappointing aspects of our lives. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So let's get into it. Rising to the expectations that your family has set for you is obviously going to be something that you're going to see a lot of pressure from, because people just love to live vicariously through their kids and set all of the goals and achievements that they themselves didn't achieve onto the children and make it their fucking problem to sort out. Yes, you get these things that tumble down through the generations where you are expected to be a certain way, do a certain thing, and give back, apparently, the things that were given to you. Not the trauma, though. So obviously, this kind of expectation not being met is very easy to make you into a disappointment, especially when they are a certain type of person where nothing is ever actually enough, and it doesn't matter what you achieve, they just move on to the next goal and pressure you to that one. Setting your own goals, your own desires and wants as a priority, and what you actually want to achieve in life is what's actually going to give it meaning. Giving you something that you are actually passionate about will make you want to go out and achieve those because you like this thing rather than you're expected to do it. And oftentimes the path that is predetermined for us is the one that we fight against because it was predetermined for us. We had no say in it. We had no choice. It was something that we were basically forced into, and therefore there was absolutely no motivation for us to stay on it. So actually going out and doing what you want to do is exactly what life is all about. That sense of freedom, that sense of accomplishment, of doing something off your own back because you wanted to, not because you were told to. That's the thing we need to chase. Going to college and getting a degree and furthering your education is seen to be the logical step for a mature adult who is leaving school, and it is something that is expected of everybody. You move on to go and get that degree to get a higher paying job, and the whole aesthetic of the college lifestyle and experience is glorified in everything. You're supposed to go out there, be independent, get drunk, fuck around, find out eventually as well, and just generally, apparently, it makes you a better person because it is the gateway into making you a career opportunist, someone who can go out there and have a career for the next 40 years in a higher paying job, and they will fucking pressure the shit out of you to do that. Oh, and if you don't, then it's a sign of low intelligence or low work ethic or just being a lazy youngster, obviously. College is quite frankly not for everybody, and not everybody wants to start off their working life with an immense amount of debt. It is no longer a guaranteed route to higher paid income. It just flat out isn't like that anymore, and it's a little bit strange that at such a young age you're expected to know what you want to spend the next 40 to 50 years of your life doing, and therefore putting everything into it. Because essentially, when you go to college and you decide, right, I'm going to be this thing, you are gambling. You are gambling that you are correct, that this is something you want to do and will continue to want to do. If it turns out you hate this fucking thing after 8 years of getting a degree, that's a lot of wasted time and a hell of a lot of debt hanging over your head, isn't it? The experience itself isn't for everybody either. It can be down to things like the actual general vibe of being at university, but it can also be that further education is not what's necessary for you. Maybe the work that you want to get into doesn't need a degree because they prize experience higher than pieces of paper and education. A lot of sectors are like that, where your actual worked experience will always be more important than the time that you're at school. Not everything needs this. And maybe this just isn't the way that you learn. Maybe going and actually just doing the thing is the best way to get into it, rather than sitting in a lecture hall hating the stress of your life. Of course, there is the constant pressure to settle down and have kids. Give your parents those grandkids that they've wanted their entire life, and is partially the reason they had you in the first place. Continue the family bloodline. And obviously this one impacts women a hell of a lot more than it impacts men, because oftentimes in society and sometimes in their own families, they are treated as little more than baby-making factories, where that's your entire purpose, is to settle down with someone who is deemed socially valuable and fuck and breed and pump out babies. ways. It doesn't matter what your life goals or career goals are. You're expected to put those on hold so that you can become a mother, because that is all you are deemed to be important with. It's why we always hear the constant pressure of, oh, before it's too late, and think about your biological clocks, and you don't want to get to that old and not have kids. Yeah, maybe we do. The state of the world is absolutely fucking awful, and the prospects for a present are hard enough, let alone the prospects for a future. So why would we want to bring a child into it? Why would you decide, you know what, yeah, I can barely afford rent or food or water, and the water they're dumping shit into, and fuel prices are going up, and there's potentially war on the horizon, and we might not have a future on this planet due to the climate catastrophe that we are already living through. So yeah, I'll have a kid for that. Like, there's very little reason to do it. It's hard enough to survive on our own, and for a lot of us, we can't. We don't own property. We can barely rent, if we can even do that. We can barely afford to feed ourselves because the economy is so immeasurably fucked. Why would we want to inflict that on something else? We would never even be able to bring that something up, for God's sake. Add to that being a parent does not obviously come naturally to absolutely everybody, and it's not in everybody, as I'm sure a lot of us can attest from our own experiences with parenting. And we don't want to pass that on. It can be something genetic, but it can also be behavioural. A lot of us are still dealing with the trauma that we grew in our childhood, that was inflicted upon us. And we know that we don't want to pass that on to someone else. We don't want to take that risk of doing unwillingly to a child what was done to us. And I can fucking stand by that one. And even beyond that, having a child is a total surrender of oneself. It is a surrender of your identity, your goals. It is a purely selfless thing where you give up everything about you to benefit this thing. And for some people, that just ain't it. If you want to work so hard in your life to achieve things, to then be told you have to put them aside to have a child, that's a real shot to the fucking jaw, isn't it? And not everybody's going to want to do that. And fair enough, why should you? Why should you want to give everything up just for a kid that you honestly, maybe, potentially don't actually want? You just feel it's expected of you, and therefore you have to do it. Anything that deviates from the standard norms of society is deemed a target, something to be feared and pushed out and shunned and corrected, because it makes you different. It takes you out of the mainstream and into a little niche, which apparently has danger if we go back to primate thinking, for God's sake. But it also delves a little deeper. I mean, the parents feel they are responsible for who you turn out to be as a person, and in some ways they are instrumental in it, but not 100% responsible. So if you're coming out with something that does not adhere to the norms, then it reflects poorly on them, and maybe they don't want that kind of assumption thrown at them, like, wow, dude raised a guy who thinks he's a fucking dog. No, dude didn't raise nobody, motherfucker. But ultimately, they just cannot comprehend this, and they don't want to. Therefore, they will not ever be able to see the value in it. They see it as something that will stop you advancing in life, stop you advancing in a career, stop you advancing socially. When in reality, this can actually be the reason why you succeed in all of those areas. There are already plenty of normal people out there. We don't need any more of them, okay? In fact, if anything, we need to diversify things a hell of a lot more. And being on the outside of something gives you a different perspective. Being an outsider from the norm, it forces you to develop a different perspective, to take into account things that a lot of people don't. In fact, if anything, it means that you have a higher chance of growing empathy, of growing different perspectives and understanding, and of accepting things that are outside of your worldview. If anything, that's the sort of thing that I think most of society needs more of. And being at peace with yourself, who you are inside and out, and how you want to live your life, that's what brings true joy to the depths of your soul in this life. Being true to what you are, that's what you should be prioritizing. And putting that all aside for someone else's expectations will fucking crush you. It will destroy you. There is a constant pressure with the bond of family to just, for some reason, acknowledge, but accept and just move on from whatever issues you have. And it doesn't matter really how bad something has been or how bad someone has acted, you still come back to the whole but their family mindset of it, as if that somehow makes it okay, and also somehow means that you are obligated to have them as part of your life. There is a weird pressure with kids that have grown up to be more emotionally developed and mature to reparent their parents, to undo the damage there as if it's their fucking responsibility. And most of the time, if not all, it is for some reason down to the kids to be the only ones that are actually driving the relationship and keeping it alive. I don't know why this whole pattern has emerged, but there is a huge pressure on where you can't just not talk to them, they're your parent. Well, they're not talking to me, so why would I be making the fucking effort there? And this blame only goes in one direction. It always goes to the kid. No one ever really questions the parent and why they have not done their job as a parent, why they have not cared enough about their offspring to actually form a relationship and keep it alive. And any compromises that need to be made, that's on the kid. The kid has to compromise, has to give up their peace, give up their safety in some cases, to make the parent feel better about the piss-poor job they did of being that supporting figure in their child's life. I'm going to say this now. This only happens when the parent has failed. No exceptions. The whole job of a parent is to bring their child up, to support them, to be that rock that they can rely on. If you have chosen to go no contact, that's for something that they either did or did not do. This is not something that is down to the kid. It's not your job to drag this relationship into some form of fucking life. It is not your job to be the driving force for all of this. This was something that was supposed to be given to you. This was supposed to be something that you would have your entire life. And it is a consummate fucking failure on any parent who does not give that. Flat out. The full quote is one that's worth looking at. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Which means essentially that the bonds that you actually make organically, the found family and friends that come to you because of mutual understanding and, you know, just generally being in sync with each other, that will always take priority. That will always be more important. Because essentially, you don't get to pick blood relatives. You don't get to pick parents or anything. And the odds of them being a perfect 100% match with you are pretty slim. You don't owe them anything just because you are connected by blood and genetics. If it doesn't fucking work, it doesn't work. And there's no point trying to breathe life into this thing. You know, when they teach you how to do CPR, they teach you that after a certain point, it doesn't matter how many times you compress the chest or give a saving breath of life, they're gone. And nothing you can do will stop that. And that is the same with this. Sometimes you have to just admit defeat and say, you know what? It wasn't meant to be. There is also another quote here, which I will not be able to remember word for word, from a book I most dearly love in the series of books, The Expanse, that completely encapsulates the meaning here. If it matters, it will stick around. If it doesn't, it won't. And clawing onto the things that don't matter, that doesn't work. Focus on what gives you joy, not on what takes it away. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and hopefully it gave you a little bit of peace, because there are so many ways that people can see us as disappointments, and I'm here to tell you that sometimes those people should be disappointed. Sometimes not reaching up and matching their expectations is actually a really fucking good thing, especially for you and your mental health, and that ultimately is what should be your priority. Fuck everybody else. Not literally, but they don't matter. Only you matter. If you're happy with yourself, if you are comfortable in your life, and you are living for yourself and the people that have earned your trust and love, then you are having a fulfilling life and you are worthy of what you have. If you're just playing off of other people's expectations and basing your sense of worth over whether they approve of your lifestyle, unfortunately, you will likely never be truly happy, because nothing will ever be enough. But I hope this helps. I hope this helps you realize that being a disappointment is a fucking superpower, just like being a supporter of mine. Segue. Yes, if you would like to support us, and you did very much enjoy this video, then there are ways you can do it. We will give you merch. We will give you stuff. There is stuff to look at. Please just have a little look. Or maybe you can just, support us on Patreon. You get exclusive content. You can talk to me, which for some people might be a punishment, but hey, you don't have to. And yeah, generally you can just help us out, keep us doing what we're doing, because fuck me, we've been doing this a long time. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy the video, and I guess I'll see you next week. Bye!